Now, here's the hosts of Top Story, KLIXcast and Jill Skeen.
Good morning and welcome to Top Story, 7360300, always the number to call. Hello, Jill.
Hello, Kelly. How are you?
All of a sudden I looked up and you weren't there.
I dropped my glasses.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay,
sometimes
sorry.
I use them, sometimes I don't, but, you see them there on the ground, you're like, okay, I got to pick them up.
Yeah, you
They're
do.
my glasses.
I know.
How was your weekend?
Fast. All weekends are
fast.
I was a little surprised at the rain again.
Why, that we had some?
Yeah.
We actually were playing golf yesterday. I decided to play 9 because I had other stuff to do, and Tom played 18. And when I was leaving, we played at 93. It started, raining right at the Flying J all the way to Kimberly, and then it got pretty hard. But then Tom came home. They didn't get rain at all. Crazy.
Well, I was coming home from town late Saturday morning, and it had been raining in town, and I got out on the highway out toward my house. There was an area in there where it hadn't rained at all.
Yeah.
Then I got up to my house and it had rained there. So Mother Nature is a funny lady.
Well, tonight around 8-something, I don't know if it's 8:39, 8:29, 8-something, tonight is when fall starts.
That's
officially.
right. Wow.
I know.
Here we are in
Weird.
fall already.
September 22nd, I keep thinking it's like July. I don't know where the summer went. I don't know where the year's going. I don't know who we are. I don't know where I am.
Well,
what's happening?
It has been said,
What?
the older you get, the faster time goes.
It goes.
And I always thought, and even my daughter told me a while back, she said, you always said that, and I just let it go in one ear and out the other. But she said, it's true.
It's so
the
true.
older you get, the faster it goes.
Or is it just your concept of time? Because when you're little, you're like, oh, it's forever before you get here or there.
Well,
you don't think about it.
It might be. I know when in elementary school, you start the school year, and it is 5 lifetimes until Christmas, And it just goes on forever. And then finally, when you get into high school, they go a little bit faster.
But then the summer always went fast.
The summer always goes
then you're
fast.
Like, school's
and then
here
you
again.
graduate, you get a job, you go to college or whatever. And from that point on, time starts moving faster until you get to be my age.
Oh, gosh.
And I hesitate to blink anymore because each time I blink, it's another day.
Kelly,
So.
blink. It'll be tomorrow's show. Hello, Tuesday.
I know. It is funny how that works, but it does.
I think it was I always think it's nice to have a little rainy afternoon time to time.
I do not mind this type of weather at all. Now, I know
that's
that
when
it
you
is
don't feel guilty doing, being inside doing
That is true.
stuff.
That's true. But I know it's a hardship right now for many of the farmers. They still have beans in the windrow right now. Rain on beans in the windrow is never a good thing. It just depends on how much it rains, if it hurts anything. But the more it rains, the more there's that potential. There's some hay still in the windrow that is getting rained on. So we are so diverse in this area for crops that we never have a perfect year for anything, because if it's perfect for one type of crop, there's another type of crop that we grow around here that is just completely the opposite.
There you go.
So I don't know.
Mother
There's
Nature.
just nothing you can do about
She's
it.
a crazy one, isn't
Yes,
she?
she is. They
Be
don't
nice
call
to
her
Mother
Nature for nothing.
I know. Gotta love her. Gotta love Mother Nature.
Anyway, we have
It's
Art
Monday.
Hogue coming up at 8:30. He'll be talking about the upcoming chalk art walk.
Mm-hmm, for Oktoberfest.
Yeah, so that should be fun.
So all
Always
the
fun to
artists
talk to
listen
Art.
up. Yeah, Art's great.
It's
He's
funny.
the best name.
Yeah, he is. Art is in charge of the art around here.
Uh-huh.
So
It's so funny because at Art in the Park, he had a T-shirt that said, "Earth without art is eh." Like, that's a great T-shirt. Eh.
yes, it is. And then at 8:40, we have Randy Staples with the Idaho Political Update. So.
And then we're on our own.
Well, we do have a few things to talk about today, and I just have to mention, I read this story from the New York Times this morning about NASA's latest Mars spacecraft, Maven. Arrived yesterday to study the mystery of what happened to the planet's air.
Okay.
After a 33-minute engine firing, mission controllers received acknowledgement at about 10:25 p.m. Eastern Time that the Maven was in orbit around Mars. I just have to say, And I know I mention on here, technology is going to save us and technology is going to kill us.
Yes.
I marvel. Absolutely marvel at the technological, what do I want to say, advancements, where we are right now in technology. To send a spacecraft out into space, this thing traveled over 400 million miles to get to Mars. And I think Mars is like 10 million miles away or something like that. I don't know. Somebody will correct me on that. Maybe it's further than that.
I don't know.
But it is, and now, not even to mention the rovers that we have on Mars that are doing their sampling. And now we have another spacecraft around Mars that's going to orbit it and see what happened to Mars if maybe at one time it was inhabited or something. But just the mere fact that we can send these electronic gadgets out into space so many millions and even hundreds of millions of miles away and maneuver them and get information back from them is just absolutely beyond belief.
But you know what's even more mind-boggling? That almost 50 years ago, we went to the moon without the technology that we have today.
That's
or
true.
The computers. I mean, the computers were in a huge thing, not even in a small, it wasn't small. They were these huge computers. And, you know, the fact that we could do it back in the 60s was amazing with the technology we had back then.
I was watching a documentary over the weekend, the computing power of our smartphone. And I'm holding mine up here for the video. The computing power on our smartphone is way more and above what the computing power was in the Apollo 11 spacecraft.
Well, remember in Apollo 13, and they're using the slide rules?
Yes.
They had like 4 or 5 to verify the number.
Yes.
Because, I mean, it was just crazy when you think of how they did it back then, and we do it now. And you're like, okay, but look how much things have advanced in almost 50 years. That's even more mind-boggling to me. But, okay, so now we've got more stuff up around Mars, which is pretty amazing.
It is. I know. And I marvel at that every time I hear it. And I think it's the Pioneer spacecraft that is outside now of the influence of our sun. How many billions of miles, and it is still sending signals back.
It's amazing.
It is. So I don't know. When you think of that, when you think of mankind and his advancements in that way,
and then you think, how come I can't get my Dish Network to work because it's cloudy out? You know what I'm saying? Like some days you're like, really? We put a man on the moon, we have a thing on Mars, and you can't get the transmission right, or your cell phone doesn't work in some places.
Or we can't find a missing airliner in the Indian Ocean.
I know. I know.
It is
makes you
paradoxical
scratch your head.
Times.
Like,
it
what?
really does.
Okay.
So anyway, enough about that.
Enough.
Over the weekend, the U.S. Secret Service is having a preliminary discussion about setting up security screening points near public areas around the White House. An official said that the measures have been discussed by the agency previously, but the talks have taken an added urgency following an incident Friday in which a man carrying a knife jumped over the gate around the White House and made it to a building entrance. Now, the fact that he was carrying a little 2.5-inch pocket knife is not so disturbing to me as much as someone was able to jump the fence, run across the lawn, and get to apparently the White House without being stopped.
And the president and his daughters, they left just 4 minutes prior to that. 4 minutes.
Yeah.
But, you know, a 2.5-inch knife can do some damage.
I realize that. And the guy who did it probably didn't really have any bad intentions in mind. But it's like, what were you thinking?
Well,
the Secret Service tightened security outside the White House after the embarrassing breach in which Omar Gonzalez, 42 of Copperas Cove, I don't know how that's pronounced, Texas, climbed the fence, ran across the lawn, and entered the building before agents stopped him.
Now, normally they say there's dogs, there's other things.
Right.
Where were the dogs?
Well, they said that they did not shoot the man, nor did they send the attack dogs because he appeared to be unarmed. So they didn't.
Okay. So anyone
And
who looks like they're unarmed is okay because you could have a lot of stuff under your clothing.
I know, and I think it was Representative King or someone
Peter
said,
King.
he could have had
Yeah.
an explosive
Sure.
vest, or he could have had a bomb in his, somewhere on his
Anything.
person. Anything like that could have happened.
I think this is just, I think it's terrible the fact that he could get that far that way and they evacuated the West Wing.
Yeah.
And then they had a second guy the next day. Did you read that?
Yes.
A second man was apprehended after he drove up to a White House gate, refused to leave. Okay. They then prompting bomb technicians in full gear to search the vehicle. Well, the other guy could have had a bomb under his clothing.
He could have.
So I think, I don't know what's going on with the Secret Service.
This one here was stopped at a gate. I mean, at least, he didn't jump the fence. He was stopped at the gate. This, as far as I'm concerned, couldn't really be considered that the Secret Service dropped the ball. I mean, they were just, or the Capitol Police or anybody. The guy stopped at the gate.
But you've had two incidents. He can just jump the fence.
He jumped the fence and ran across the lawn and made it to a building before they got to him. I mean, to me, that's inexcusable.
Oh, it is inexcusable.
This is one of those situations, and I don't know what's happening to the Secret Service, because the Secret Service just used to be impeccable. I mean, they never missed a beat.
No.
And it seems ever since that prostitution thing they had going on down in, what was it, Venezuela or someplace like that?
Cartagena. They've had a few problems. They've had the hookers. They've also had, there was another incident. Remember the advance team? I think it was Russia, and 3 guys were drunk, and they had to leave. Okay, I know it's a tough job, but if they're obviously, maybe they need more Secret Service people to help relieve some of the stress. I don't know what's going on with them, but this is, and remember, they used to take pride, like, some of them, who was the guy who was so destroyed after Kennedy was shot? He felt like he didn't do his job. Remember, they used to take it so personally, and remember the Secret Service guy who, it really ruined his life.
Yeah.
He was so distraught that he allowed the president to get shot, and literally ruined his life, tortured him his whole life. And I don't know what's going on with them.
I don't either. But this is one of those jobs where you can't mess up even once, because the first time you do, and somebody gets killed, like the president or his family or his daughters or anything like that, you just can't. They just left
4 minutes earlier. 4 minutes. 4 minutes. So you have to wonder whether you think he's okay by sight. How many times are people okay by sight and they're not?
If I were to jump the fence and head for the White House across the lawn, I would expect to get shot.
Yeah.
I just would.
Yeah.
I don't know I know he had PTSD and all that kind of stuff.
He needs some help.
He needs help. He does need help. But, you can't assume anything when they are running across, especially with the atmosphere we're living in today. We'll be right back here on Top Story. 7360300 is the number to call. You've heard us talking about Infrared Baron from Far More of Idaho, where they do overflights of your field. They take pictures with infrared photography, and then they can upload these pictures to your computer, where you can study them and decide if you need to make some changes in your irrigation system. Because over time, these irrigation systems, even though they're just running water through them, if they're sprinklers or something like that, that water abrasion through those little tiny holes, the holes get bigger over time. Sometimes you have to go in and you have to put in all new nozzles and such. And that may sneak up on you. You might not realize that that's happening until you can get an infrared picture of your crop and you can see, wow, there's just a lot of dry spots on that pivot right there. So this is something you'll want to consider. When you can see this with infrared photography from a bird's eye view, you can get a lot more idea of what's really happening to your crop. So you ask them about Infrared Baron at Far More of Idaho, 324-3341, or also online at farmoreofidaho.com. I don't mean to alarm anyone, but 3 Afghan National Army soldiers who were in Massachusetts for training have gone missing after a trip to a shopping mall, authorities said. It's the second time in a week that Afghan security trainees in the U.S. have disappeared. The 3 soldiers do not appear to pose any threat to the public, according to the Massachusetts National Guard, but of course, they're going to tell us that anyway. Earlier this month, 2 Afghan police officers training with the DEA wandered off during a sightseeing trip to Georgetown. They decided they wanted to stay in the United States, but authorities found them and sent them home.
Who could blame them? They're like,
Well,
wow, we don't
me.
have to live in a cave. We have running water. Wow, women aren't wearing burqas. I can check out their legs. Why wouldn't they? You know what I'm saying?
Don't disagree.
Like they're probably like in awe looking at all compared to their country. My goodness.
What bothers me is, what if these 3 Afghan soldiers are part of ISIS? They have now gotten easy entry into our country, and now they just turn up missing. There's a high degree of possibility, the way I am looking at this, in that the next thing we hear out of these 3 Afghan soldiers running around in the United States is that the next thing we could hear from them is a huge explosion.
I don't know. I mean, look at who
this
knows?
worries me.
They were in a mall in Cape Cod. What should worry you is, well, actually in Hyannis. So Hyannis is where, you catch the ferries for Nantucket or Martha's Vineyard. So, they're on an island. But I think, people might catch them, I don't know, buying bombs or something. I don't know.
Well,
we know who they are. We know their
the
pictures.
Power and money of
but
ISIS.
we know the pictures. We know their identity. It might be like the other 2 who are trying to just stay.
There are probably, unbeknownst to us, some sympathizers of ISIS in this country who may already have a stash. And these, I'm looking at this from what are the chances? I don't know. But I'm thinking with the way ISIS is determined to get at us, this would be a perfect opportunity. We might see it as just 3 Afghan soldiers coming across here, going to some training thing, and they decide they like it here so well, they're just going to get lost in the crowd and spend the rest of their lives living in the great country of America. But I'm seeing some possibilities here with the atmosphere we have right now with ISIS. You know what? This could really turn out to be a bad thing.
Well, I mean, the thing that's amazing to me, you think if they're off traveling, I mean, you come from Afghanistan, you're now in Massachusetts, you're in Cape Cod. How are they driving around? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, do they have, like, their international driver's license? Wasn't someone escorting them? Do you just let them loose? Do they just walk around?
Apparently so. And don't they have taxi cabs? They don't have to have a car.
Well, down in the
and
Cape,
don't a lot of people ride
if you're
bikes?
in Hyannis, you can. If it depends on where they were dropped
Maybe
off,
they
you
had
can walk
somebody
around
pick
a
them
lot.
up. I mean, if this is a pre-planned deal, somebody could have picked them up. I'm just saying.
You might stick out a little at the Cape with your Afghan, uniform on. I assume they were dressed. They were all captains.
They could have other clothing that they changed into. Come on, man. I mean,
come on. Let's say it's ISIS. Let's say ISIS is at the Cape.
I'm not saying it is. I am just saying we have to consider the possibility.
I'm sure they are considering it.
This would be a perfect breach, a perfect way to get into the country.
Well, the weird thing is they have troops from 6 nations practicing, in the exercise. But to me, why aren't you escorting them? Wouldn't they have drivers? Wouldn't they have vans? I mean, I don't think all these people would be renting cars.
Well, if you leave from a shopping mall, maybe they took them there in a van, but they decided they were going to get lost, or someone picked them up, or they decided they would get lost in the crowd and worry about transportation later. And again, if this is a pre-planned deal, we could be in for big trouble here.
Watch out, Cape or Martha's Vineyard or Nantucket.
I'm just saying.
Just saying. ISIS is loose on the Cape. We got
Art Hogue next here to talk about the Chalk Art Walk coming up on Oktoberfest. Maybe
we just destroyed that title.
Well, we'll let Art get us all filled in here. Coming up on Top Story. 7360300 is the number to call here this morning on Top Story. Welcome back. We have Art Hogue coming up to tell us about the Chalk Walk contest coming up at the Oktoberfest. But before we do that, our news director, Benito Baeza, is here with some breaking news. Benito, what's going on?
Yeah, we had another water line break in Twin Falls. Right now, Twin Falls police are shutting down a part of Washington south near Orchard. It's at the intersection of Orchard
Oh.
and Washington. So any
Well, they just worked on
I
that,
know, that-
put
didn't
in
they-
that new stretch of road.
Yeah, and so now they will have any traffic going northbound will be directed to go around. So if you're heading north on Washington before Orchard, you'll need to find another way to get around. So go take Blue Lakes or take Grandview to get into Twin Falls today. They're going to have it shut down for however long they need to take a look at it. It's one of the newer water lines. It's part of the arsenic water line, one of the lines they use to blend their water to reduce arsenic. So some buses will be late today. School buses will have to be rerouted around. So some kids will be late for school today, which they'd probably be all right with that. They don't know what caused it yet. It's a 24-inch line, so I think that's quite a good sized line.
Yeah, it is.
So again, if you're heading northbound,
Wait, 24
on
inch or
Washington,
24 feet?
24 inch.
24 inch.
24
Oh,
inch
round. I'm
round.
thinking.
Don't look at
What?
That's okay. Now we got to spend 10 minutes to explain to Jill how the water.
Well,
works.
how long is the break? Whatever.
Yeah, the size really doesn't matter. There's just water on the road.
So why'd you
They're
say
gonna
it
have to
then?
fix
Who
I'm
cares?
sorry.
All right.
Well, and she's probably looking at my note because I have the foot mark.
You do have a foot mark there.
instead of the inch. So
So it didn't make sense.
don't look at my notes, Jill.
I'm not going to anymore.
All
But
right,
anyway.
so we got,
Okay, thanks,
a water
Benito.
break in the vicinity of Orchard and Washington Street.
right.
South.
And northbound Washington's closed. So
right.
at least in that area. All right.
Great.
Bring out the kayaks, people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Benito. Appreciate that.
Thanks, Benito.
All right.
Sorry
I'm sure
about
we'll
that,
have
buddy.
An update,
Okay.
as soon as we get more information on that. Okay.
And a new line. Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
We have Art Hogue with us this morning on Top Story. Good morning, Art.
Hi, Art.
Very entertaining here.
Always,
isn't
huh?
it though?
24-foot diameter water line in Twin Falls.
I was thinking length of the pipe. I'm like, wow, okay, because they just put it in.
Yeah,
Anyway.
yeah. We just
They
2 or 3
did.
years ago. That's right. And there
Yeah.
was some construction work in that area.
Yeah.
So it makes you wonder. I don't know.
All right,
Well,
whatever.
I guess
We
I'll
got
figure it
Art's
out.
It's
time.
time for Oktoberfest.
It is. I
Hard to
noticed
believe.
And this year they're going to do it in October.
That is nice.
that. Why? When was it last year? Not
September.
September.
October. Oh, didn't it get rained out or something? Or
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
No.
But you have something fun coming up.
Yes, we're going to do a chalk walk, and we've been doing it off and on for a number of years. It's actually sponsored by the Art Council,
Okay.
and so the Art Guild and the Art Council are kind of working together to sponsor that, and we got some prize money to give away.
How much?
That's a secret.
If I don't ask the stumper question,
That's a
yeah.
secret.
So wait, so you're going to
But-
judge them on the artwork?
On the artwork, right. And they have from 3 o'clock on Friday the 3rd till 10 o'clock Saturday morning the 4th to get the artwork completed. And then there'll be prizes for the top, cash prizes for the top 3. And there'll be a cash prize for the oldest artist and the youngest artist.
Kelly.
Oh, I don't know.
What?
Kelly can qualify for the oldest. We'll probably
He's
have
pretty old. He's pretty old. Well, this should be fun. Do you
So,
guys provide the chalk, or do you?
We'll
Okay.
provide chalk and space for them. They have to register. They can go to the Brass Monkey and get the registration forms.
Okay.
And then other Oktoberfest, Kelly's got the flyer there for the Oktoberfest. And one event Kelly really wants to be in.
I know.
And
Finally, he has an event he's
that is
interested
the
in.
0K Fun Run.
that sounds like my kind of a run.
Now, how does that work?
Easy.
You pretty much
easy.
stand on the line, and that's
Oh, you don't
it?
have to stand. You can sit.
Nothing.
You can sit.
It's just 0K.
0K.
Okay.
You just show up, sit down, and have a beer.
There you go, Kelly.
Then St. Luke's is doing this program, and I'm not quite sure what they're doing, but it's beer for boobies. And Kelly liked that idea also.
He did.
And there's going to be live music. There's going to be a kids zone.
I'm
There's,
being maligned here.
I know. Poor Kelly.
there's going to be beer stations. There's going to be markets set up on the street, different vendors, plus sidewalk sales. So a lot going on downtown for the 3rd and 4th.
That
So
sounds like fun, and
Come on.
that's always a
Yeah.
big time.
so come on down and enjoy it. And if you feel creative, come down and draw your favorite picture on the sidewalk.
So do you draw it on? How big of a space do you have for the sidewalk?
Oh, probably 3-4 foot square space to do
Okay.
the drawing in. And some of them are bigger. Last year we had one that was probably about 4 by 6, something like that. So we had some nice ones last year.
Who's the judge? Who are the judges?
I haven't figured that out yet.
But you have a panel, and they just
We'll
go
have-
around, and
Right, they'll go around and look at them and judge them.
that'll be fun.
Does sound like a lot
open
of
to
fun,
anybody
yeah.
that wants to do it. And
All right.
come
Don't have to
down.
be a member of anything.
You don't have to be a member.
Just a member of the human race.
And it doesn't cost you anything. You just
When do you have
All
to
the better.
register by for the chalk walk?
Well, it has to be done by 10 o'clock Saturday morning, so you can register anytime now.
Anytime
and the
till-
forms are available at the Brass Monkey.
Which is on Main Street.
Right next to the Sandwich Company.
Right.
It's in the first
Have you been in there? It's so cute.
first block
Where
there, North Main, first block in the 100 block. I
Okay.
can't remember the exact
Is there a
address.
phone number to call for more information?
You can call me 421-1311.
All right. Art always has.
Art
the
always
information.
And
fun.
also, we're
Quick.
thinking quickly. Art and Soul coming up. We're starting to plan. Got to get that plug in.
All right.
Okay,
very
good.
Start building a truck or tractor or
All
train.
right. I got to work on that. All
Okay.
right. Thanks, Art.
Thanks, Art.
7360300 is the number to call here this morning on Top Story. Busy day today.
Yeah.
We've got Randy Staple is with us from Reidenbaugh Press, waiting in the wings there. Got a couple of items to take care of before we get to Randy, though. One of them is to reiterate the fact that there is a water line break at South Washington and Orchard. Traffic to northbound traffic in that area is closed, so you will need to find an alternate route. Some school buses will be late for school. Some South Twin Falls residents will have reduced water pressure. They don't know why it broke, but it was the 24-inch line, one of the main lines that broke. And the city is not sure when it'll be reopened to traffic. It's going to take them however long to fix it as it takes them. So this is part of the new water lines that were put in to deal with the arsenic reduction in the water system here 3 or 4 years ago. So at any rate, they're at the mainly at the intersection of Orchard and Washington, where
That's right.
they just got the new road put in.
Just got it done.
So I don't know if they're going to have to dig that up or not. But at any rate, more information on that coming up. Also, Dave Hansen at Canyon Pond wants you to stop by and see his huge stock of stuff, because it's a pawn shop. That's what they have, is stuff. They got camping stuff. They got woodworking stuff. They got fishing poles. They got tools. And they got guns. So if you're looking for an interesting place to go, you might even find something that you want to buy. Stop by Canyon Pond. They're on Shoshone Street, right across from Will's Toyota, and they would be tickled to have you just come in and take a look at things. Randy Staples is with us from Reidenbaugh Press at reidenbaugh.com with his Idaho political update. Good morning, Randy.
Good morning, Randy.
Morning.
Nice to have you back.
Good to be back.
Let's talk about the campaign money information that is available on the website. On website, you had your update today about all the information that we as common, ordinary, everyday folk can get off of the web, off of the internet. And a lot of this stuff, we think we have to wait until a newspaper publishes it or something, but that's not the case.
Oh no, it's not at all intended to be just for the newspapers or just for the news media. It's intended to be for everybody to look up.
Right.
And everybody to check out. If you'd like to know how a legislator or a legislative challenger or a state candidate or somebody else how they're funding their campaign, where they're getting their money, how they're spending it, you can find it there, because they're required to file that information several times during the campaign season, and they have to do it a little bit more regularly as they get toward the end of it. The system isn't perfect. These days, because of electronic funding or electronic data gathering, it ought to be possible to do it more or less instantly. The candidate gets the information, or they put the money in the bank and do things like that, and it really ought to show up more or less instantly, but neither the states, and that's generally the states generally, not just Idaho, and the federal government, none of them really set up that way at present. But there is a lot of information out there that you can very easily get.
Right, which people should do. I mean, they should do a little homework, I think, on some of these candidates. And actually, speaking of homework or things that came out, there were headlines out that I thought were pretty misleading. It said auditors for Idaho legislature say they found no problems with accounting or administrative procedures at the state treasurer's office in a report released Thursday. But then as you read the article, like the third paragraph down, it says, but Thursday's report does not resolve a 90-day follow-up audit released in July that says Crane has not provided enough proof that he reviewed his office's lending transactions following a 2009 inappropriate money transfer where he actually cost taxpayers $10.2 million. Randy, what is going on? Because if you just read the headline, you're like, oh, yeah, this is great. But I have to say, quite misleading. And why isn't he responding?
Well, his initial response was to basically saying that the issues that they had found in the earlier reports have been cleared up. So that much is true as far as that goes. But as you say, it doesn't include some of the most recent information. It doesn't include everything that's been raised about the office. It just includes certain pieces of information. So some of those other things are just not addressed by it.
But the thing that I found interesting is they're like, okay, well, we've cleared it up. He now pays for his own gas. Well, meanwhile, he charged $8,000 of gas, and he did admit that his wife used the gas too, to Idaho taxpayers. Okay, so you're no longer doing something, and now it's okay. We have a sheriff from Minidoka who has a felony for $200 and something, and you think, oh, here's a newsflash. So you're no longer doing it's okay, but has Ron Crane even suggested about paying the taxpayers back?
I think a lot of law enforcement people would. Yeah, I think a lot of law enforcement people would raise an eyebrow for that. Oh, you're not committing this crime anymore, and therefore we're just going to forget about it.
I know. I thought it was kind of ridiculous. Not to mention, here's a concept. He could actually say, "Geez, I'll pay the taxpayers back $8,000."
Well, that's also true. Yeah, and sometimes politicians, confronted with this sort of thing, will do a mea culpa and say that, oh, that's probably what I need to do. And there have been occasions when they've done that. That's not been the case here.
Yeah, I know. But, and the same thing with the Smart Money, Smart Women conference. That was he set that up as his nonprofit. So now the payment isn't coming from the treasurer's office like it should have in the first place. And now it's coming from the legislature. I don't know. It just seems like, okay, these are problems, but now you're not doing it anymore. I don't know. I thought it was ridiculous, frankly.
The whole area of politicians and nonprofits that they get involved with can sometimes kind of a messy area, and there have been other politicians that have run into problems with that.
Mm-hmm.
The Belukov campaign just last week was brought to task for possibly violating campaign funding rules regarding its payments to the campaign team, but it looks like indeed, and the Republicans brought this up, but it looks like that they checked this out with the Secretary of State and everything is okay.
It's kind of an unusual way of paying for the campaign staff, running that basically through the state party offices. I've not really seen it done that way before. I didn't really know. It's new enough, different enough that I didn't know whether it was legal or not. I thought it was a question that was probably worth asking. But it turns out that Ben Usursa at the Secretary of State's office, and he really is kind of the final authority on these sorts of things in Idaho, said flatly that there's no legal problem. It may be a little unconventional, but it is not a legal issue at all, period. And they even threw in a little bit of a statement that kind of suggested that even the accusation was a little bit squirrely, in that it's getting toward that time of the election cycle when things just kind of get pulled up. But it sounds as if nothing turned out to be there. Last week I suggested that probably the next thing that would happen would be that the Secretary of State's office would weigh in on it one way or the other, and they did.
Yeah.
And that was they kind of put it to bed.
It seems a little odd to me that the Democrats would want to do it that way simply because of something like this. I mean, they could be accused maybe of, and I can understand why they thought that this might be in violation. It's almost kind of like they were kind of egging on the Republicans. Well, we're going to do this. We're going to make sure it's legal, but
Oh,
hopefully the Republicans will say something.
I'm sure that's their whole goal, to egg on a hornet's nest of Republicans. Yeah.
I'm not sure they were probably clever enough to do that, but
Nice, good one, Randy. Wow. Ouch.
I like that.
Anyway.
Okay, so we've talked about the Sherry Ibarra campaign for Superintendent of Public Instruction, and in an interview with the Times News, the current superintendent Tom Luna, said that he, if I can get this right, he thinks that that Jones, Ibarra's opponent, has the election to lose. Is that kind of a behind-the-scenes unofficial endorsement of Janet Jones over someone from his own party, do you think?
I wouldn't say an endorsement, in that, although another one of the interesting things that he apparently said in that interview was that he had been planning to do an endorsement, and you would presume that the endorsement would be of a fellow Republican nominee. But now he's not planning to do an endorsement at all.
Well, he just met her too, right? Last week?
Well, that's not even, maybe that's right, but
Yeah.
he had not even met her up until very recently,
Right.
If at all, which also strikes me as really strange. Why would they not have met, if not earlier?
Yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't she have wanted to meet him during the primary? But even if not then, after winning the primary,
Yeah.
why wouldn't she and Luna have had a sit down?
I
would
know,
have just
it's
kind of
perplexing.
assumed that they would have. That seems very strange to me. But there was that. There was the. I didn't take it as an endorsement of Jones, but I took it as a prediction that he thinks Jones probably will win.
Well, I think that she's
I think it reads
obviously
straight
doing the
across
right
that
things.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That it's her campaign to lose, because clearly, she's doing things right. It'll be interesting because there are debates coming up Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's going to be a very interesting debate. It'll be that in some ways that may be Ibarra's last shot at trying to turn things around for her campaign. It may be at this point that it's gone too far, but I think the debate may be her last shot at trying to pick up some support between here and the general election, which is not very far away.
That's
No.
right. And I was just thinking about that. Here we're almost in October now.
I think it's like 43
So
days
we're-
or
yeah,
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a little over a month.
Yeah.
Away from politics here a little bit, and onto the unemployment outlook in Idaho. The unemployment rate is 4.7%, but the jobs in the goods production seem to be dropping, while the jobs in services are in goods production, I mean like manufacturing jobs. But yet in services, they are increasing. And historically, jobs of manufacturing type, of those jobs, they pay better. So what's happening in Idaho? Are our manufacturers leaving the state?
Well, it's something that we've been seeing nationally. There's been nationally a relative uptick in service jobs as opposed to manufacturing jobs. It's not just an Idaho only thing, but having said that, it's kind of a worrisome thing, because you're absolutely right. Overall, I mean, there are exceptions, obviously,
Yeah.
but overall, service jobs don't pay as well as manufacturing jobs. Historically, that's been the case. And if you're replacing manufacturing jobs with service jobs, then over time you've got a problem. You've got a lot of people who are being paid less, who are making less money, and you have less money circulating around in the economy, and it becomes a poorer economy.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was also interesting too to see the median income for Idaho as well. Did we drop from 37th to 39th or something like that?
We've been seeing a number of drops in that over time. I think that's stabilized somewhat over the last year or so, as the economy's recovered to a degree from the crash of the last decade. But it's a real big problem.
I mean, when you looked at it, I think that what was the median income? I think it was a woman with a BA in Idaho was like something like $38,000. That didn't sound like much to me.
It's well, and of course, some of it's kind of terms of art because you have to bear in mind that it accounts for children, for retired people, for things like that. The real way to look at it is to compare it with other states and to compare it with a national figure. But Idaho is low when you compare it to either the national average or other states.
Right.
Randy, we're out of time. We appreciate it. We'll see you next Monday.
Talk to you then.
Thanks,
All right.
Randy.
Randy Staples from Reidenbaugh Press or reidenbaugh.com. You can go there and subscribe to his weekly update. Coming up this next hour, we're going to be talking about a guy in the Navy from Georgia who helped arrest a civilian in Washington. I thought we were supposed to keep the military and the local police separate, but we'll talk about it when we come back here on Top Story. Welcome back to Top Story, 7360300. Always the number to call. It is 56 and more rain expected today, I guess.
Ooh.
I don't know if it's raining now or not, but I do know that we've had a breach of one of the main water lines coming into town on South Washington Street. And we have Josh Palmer with us, who's a public information officer for the city of Twin Falls. Good morning, Josh.
Good morning, Josh.
Good morning, Jill. Good morning, Kelly. We got to stop having these conference calls under these circumstances.
I know, yeah. We need to just do lunch sometime and just chit-chat. So what's going on?
Well, at about 8 a.m. this morning, we had a water line break in the area of Washington Street South and Orchard Drive. And what's significant about this one is this is one of our larger lines, a 24-inch line that's we have a kind of a complex system that mixes water so that we meet minimum federal requirements for arsenic. This is one of those lines that feeds those potable water tanks for the mixing system. And so with that, we have had to close some roads, basically the area, the intersection of Washington Street South and Orchard Drive. We're asking people just to avoid that altogether because that's where it's at, and we have workers out there removing sections of roadway to expose that line so that they can repair it as quickly as possible. Also, there's some residents in South Twin Falls that are probably experiencing some reduced water pressure. And then more, I guess, significantly for the community is we're asking people to conserve water and just do basic conservation practices. So if possible, turn off your sprinkler systems and use as little water as possible. We're not asking people to go to the lengths that we had to go to during the declaration of emergency a few years ago, but just we're trying to stay ahead of this in case something else that's unexpected arises. We can have adequate water in those tanks so that we're not in an emergency situation.
Josh, did this have anything to do with the rain? Did it overstress our system? Because we did have, it rained pretty much where we were living, or yesterday.
Yeah. I don't know right now. Until we expose that water line, it's I wouldn't want to jump to conclusions on it right now. I mean, it's a good question, though. This is a fairly new line that was installed, too,
Yeah.
so...
That's kind of surprising because it was just a couple years ago they tore up Washington and put in the new lines. I mean, it's kind of surprising this one would break.
The one question I have is they put in a new stretch, about a quarter of a mile stretch of new road there on Orchard coming up to Washington Street. Are they going to have to dig into that, or do you know?
I don't know right now. I think they've isolated the break basically to that where it is at that intersection. So I think that's the only part of the line that they're going to have to expose or go into.
Okay.
But like I say, we sometimes unexpected things arise when you expose those lines. So we'll find out, and hopefully we'll have it repaired here before the end of the day. That road will still be probably closed because we'll have workers out there basically throughout the day and into the late evening trying to repair that line and get that road repaired. So,
Josh, one quick question. There are some businesses in that area, coffee shops and restaurants. Should they close? When you say conserve water, what should businesses start doing that?
No, what we're doing here is, so if we were to do the declaration of emergency, we would go into, and I'm sure both of you recall that
Yeah.
horrible day.
Yeah.
But those requirements are for, it's an emergency status, so we ask businesses to stop serving water and things like that. But this isn't that situation. We're just trying to stay ahead of it and ask people just to do the basics, turn off their sprinkler systems, continue to wash your hands, and the pressure hasn't dropped to anything below levels that might cause bacteria or anything like that. So the water is still safe to drink.
So no boiling is necessary.
So
then,
arsenic levels haven't increased?
No, because the tanks that hold the water, that's already mixed water.
Okay.
But the amount of water that we're able to pump into those tanks that's being mixed is less. So we're just trying to reduce demand so that we can keep up with that supply.
So have they been able to shut it off so that it's at least not leaking out?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's some water pooled around that intersection. Well, as of about 8:20 this morning, from what I saw. So I don't believe it's continuing to pour water out there.
Okay. All right. Well, very good.
Well, Josh, thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate the update, and we'll be updating folks throughout the day. So keep us informed if you would.
Yeah, if you get something else, call in.
We will. We appreciate it. Thanks for your help.
All right. Thanks,
Josh.
See you later. All right, Josh Palmer. He's the public information officer for the city of Twin Falls. So, well, hey, I guess that stuff happens. Kind of makes you wonder if when they were doing some, and this probably has nothing to do with it, but
But let's just throw it out there anyway.
Let's just throw it out there. I wonder if
if
the pipe was damaged or something when they were doing work on the road. You just never know. So
I don't
guess
know. You
they'll
think
probably
with the
find
new
that out.
pipes, you're like, okay, that's good, but that you always expect the old ones. But you wonder if with the additional rain yesterday, if
I don't know that the
blew.
rain has anything to do with it because that's on the feed, the water feed part to the city.
Just never know.
If it was in the the waste part or the sewer system part, maybe, but I don't think
don't know.
I don't think it rained that much. How much did it rain? Do you know? Have you heard?
It was like 0.88 or something, I think. I saw this morning. But, with everything we've had in the last few weeks, maybe it stressed it the last time, and now it just put it over tipping
maybe it was
point.
just a flaw in the new pipe. Who knows? I guess they'll find out.
Yeah, these new pipes. We need those 100-year-old pipes. Those have been hanging in for 100 years, a couple years. Wow.
It is amazing, isn't it?
Amazing.
I don't know how
What's
that
up
works.
with this plastic pipe?
They might want to think twice before they replace that in downtown, that big replacement
They've lasted a long time.
Yes, they have.
I know. So you have to wonder.
They just don't build stuff like they used
They
to.
don't. So anyways, anyone run into water anywhere, any of our callers, if you see anything, call in. It's always fun to hear people saying, I just drove through a huge puddle.
Yeah.
And my car stalled.
It didn't seem like we had that much rain yesterday. Even 0.88. That's almost an inch of rain. That sounds like a lot.
I know it started raining yesterday morning when I left the golf course. It was about 10:20, and it rained pretty hard the whole way home and for a while in Kimberly.
Yeah,
so,
maybe it did. I don't know.
I was just happy I left when I did. I thought, but Tom didn't get rained on.
How about that? And he was able to enjoy another 9 holes of golf.
Yeah.
736-0300 is the number to call here this morning on Top Story.
And by the way, enjoy is relative in golf.
Well, yeah. You
can have another 2 hours and you're like, yeah, okay, it was a nice walk, ruined, but whatever. Yeah, he was able to play another 9.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's
Yeah.
good. I'm not a golfer, so I've never experienced that.
The torture of the game? Yeah.
I just do enough stuff that frustrates the dickens out of me, so I figure, why should I add one more thing,
Yes.
So,
yes.
At any rate. Okay, so from the New York Times, in a field office near Brunswick, Georgia, a federal agent working as an undercover cyber sleuth signed on to a large file-sharing network, sometimes used by traders in child pornography. Using a law enforcement computer program called Roundup, the agent, Stephen Logan, scanned computer activity by the network's members in the state of Washington. He located a computer offering illegal photos and videos and downloaded 3 files as evidence. Local police took it from there, obtaining a warrant based on the distant search. The owner of the computer was convicted of possessing and distributing child pornography and is now serving an 18-year sentence at a federal prison in Texas. Had Mr. Logan worked for the FBI, his work on this case might have seemed routine. But Mr. Logan worked for the Naval Criminal Investigative Service. And his mission that day in April of 2011, he would later testify, had been to look for military service trading in child pornography in Washington, the location of several naval bases. Mr. Logan's computer surveillance could not distinguish military users from others, and the man he helped catch, Michael Dreyer, was a civilian. Now the case has sparked sharp debate over how much the military's formidable investigative powers can legally contribute to civilian law enforcement. Now, we've been talking about this lately, about the militarization of the local police and such. So this is kind of another little rabbit trail connected to that. This month, in a scathing rebuke of the investigative service and the Justice Department that has generated wide interest in legal circles, a federal appeals court in San Francisco overturned Mr. Dreyer's conviction. Federal authorities had shown a, quote, profound lack of regard for the important limitations on the role of the military in our civilian society, declared the decision issued September 12th by a panel of the Federal Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit. Military investigators often cooperate with civilian law enforcement when tracking down, for example, a source of heroin flowing into a military base. But in this case, they were just searching generally on the chance that they would run into someone from the military, said Eric Levin, the defense lawyer for Mr. Dreyer's appeal. In addition to condemning the Navy's investigative service for overstepping regulations that have evolved from the Posse Comitatus Act of 1878, limiting the use of federal troops in law enforcement, the appeals court took the unusually strong step of excluding the computer evidence in any new trial of Mr. Dreyer.
I assume someone else could do could look now, but to me, it's almost like, okay, you run across a crime inadvertently. I mean, what's the difference between that or, a civilian, you see a crime, you know what I mean? Like, okay, you found it. There's still a crime out there. He did pass it to local authorities. I guess, would they then have to do the search to find it themselves?
Apparently, according to the law enforcement,
I guess so.
To the Court of Appeals.
But you almost think, okay,
But
well, if any of us run across a crime, like say you and I, or another enforcement agency, maybe it was, okay, we can throw ISIS out there, whatever. And the fact that you find it, is it still not a crime? I mean, I understand that,
Depending
but you still,
on who finds it.
Yeah, it's like, well, what if you were just a civilian and you find child porn and you turn them in? You can do citizen arrest or, things like that. If any of us saw a crime happening and you turned it in, would they say, well, or is it just the fact that that seems a little odd to me. There's
a lot
still
of
a crime.
What if a
There's
civilian found that a military person was involved in child pornography? Would they then have to turn it to local law enforcement? Local law enforcement
for them
would
to
then
do the
go
search?
to the military, and so would not the opposite be true? I don't know.
This one sounds odd.
There's
still a crime.
This is an interesting case. Yeah.
What do you guys think?
So they're throwing out the evidence and everything. So I wouldn't be surprised if this guy's going to walk free.
Well, if you have no evidence, there you go.
736-0300 is the number to call. 736-0300 is the number to call. Welcome back here on Top Story. Friday's $100 instant winning name is Dorothy Flint.
Dorothy Flint, congratulations.
And your $100 word of the day for today is sort.
Sort.
S-O-R-T. Sort. Mm-hmm. Go to our website, newsradio1310.com. Click on the link that says word of the day. Type in word of the day. Listen tomorrow.
That's how easy it is.
If you hear your name tomorrow and you played the word of the day today, you win $100.
Boom.
If you hear your name tomorrow and you did not play the word of the day today, shame on you.
Cry.
That's right.
You just lost
missed
$100.
out on $100.
And while you're there, actually, we're having our lunch tomorrow with Frank Pepper.
We are.
So if you haven't entered for this month yet, you got to. We're going to pick it on Wednesday, October 1st.
And that's not far away. That's a week from
I know.
Wednesday.
I know.
So back to our little story here. 7360300 is the number to call. Now, common sense would say, okay, somebody runs across a crime of some pervert in Washington dealing in child pornography.
Mm-hmm.
So you would think that whether that is military or not, that they would tell local law enforcement would go arrest the guy, but they were going on evidence that was collected by the military. Now, again, common sense would tell you, hey, the guy's a slime ball. He was doing this. They had the evidence. They got him. They convicted him. He's in prison.
18 years.
18 years, yeah. And the rest is history.
Yeah.
But the rub comes in when the Posse Comitatus Act of 1878 limits the use of federal troops in law enforcement. And we've had several conversations right here on this show about the militarization of the local police. So that bears the question, are we ready to allow it in some instances and not in others? And if you do that, where do you draw the line, and how do you determine which it would be okay in and which it wouldn't? And even by the law, I don't think you can do that.
Well, the interesting thing is because of that act, they took the strong step of excluding the computer evidence in any new trial of Mr. Dreyer. My point is they didn't even have computers back in 1878 for the Posse Comitatus Act. So, I don't know. This one sounds really odd. Obviously, there was a crime. I mean, if you come across a crime normally and you don't report it, aren't you in trouble for that? So, what would should he have just ignored it? Should he have ignored it? Should he have contacted local law officials and said, oh, here's the guy's email. Check it out.
Check out this guy. I think he's dealing in child
He didn't know if it was
porn.
military or not military, and they were doing a search.
That would probably have been the route to take in retrospect. And then on the other hand, if you look at this particular situation, how many other times has this happened?
Oh.
How many other times has it been that they might have done this very same thing? They just happened to bring this to the attention of the courts, and the court said, oh, wait a minute, you can't do that. So my question is, would you be willing to kind of wink at this and just let it go? Say, look, they got this slime ball, and now he's in prison where he belongs because of this. Or do you have to look at it as strictly, wait a minute, they can't do that? Because
now they can't use that at all. But what if a local, I don't know. Because, that's the whole point. It was child pornography on the internet, so... But the internet goes everywhere.
So then
it's hard to, how do you limit things? The internet is everywhere. You could do a search. You could be in the U.S. You could be in Russia. You could be anywhere. This is a tough one. But I think the laws probably have to be updated to reflect this, as opposed to a law from an act of 1878.
So the question just popped into my mind.
Yeah.
Can you use someone who's in the military, as a witness in a civilian court?
Well, I don't know. They're still a citizen.
I know that, but
They
they're in
could
the
be a
military.
witness. Why not?
They're in the
So
military.
that doesn't exclude
I don't
you
know.
from testifying.
It just popped into my head, and there might be an easy answer for that, and I'm sure there is. But inquiring minds want to know, I guess. So I don't know.
This is where technology has just advanced beyond.
Our laws are so far behind technology that we haven't even scratched the surface yet.
Right.
There are going to be so many things coming out in the future on, like you said, in 1878 when they passed the Posse Comitatus Act. Computers, what in the world is that?
They wouldn't even know what a computer was.
The closest
Women
thing to
still
a computer.
didn't vote.
The closest thing they had to a computer back in those days was the Chinese abacus, probably. So, it does bring up a good question.
Yeah. At what point do you say, okay, this is before you could even imagine?
And do you want guilty people walking the streets who are involved in child porn just because there was evidence gathered on them by the military and they are a civilian, and so that way, for that reason, they get to walk?
But think how many times an evidence isn't admitted anyway for some technicality or whatever, and the person gets off, and and those are our laws.
That's another point.
This is an interesting
I think this
one.
is going to have an effect on quite a few cases probably that are coming up. This would be a good one to ask Grant Lobes when he comes in.
Okay, we'll save
Write
it for
that
next
down,
time.
will you? All right.
Yeah.
7360300 is the number to call. Where's the happiest place in the world to live? It's not the U.S., according to the surveys.
Woo!
7360300, the number to call here this morning on Top Story, talking about military and civilian law enforcement, and ne'er the twain shall meet, apparently, according to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. We do have a caller waiting. Before we get to the call, just wanted to say that Clearwater Power Equipment has been in the Wood River Valley for many years. Now they are also in Twin Falls. They offer sales and service and parts for Husqvarna, which is a very popular riding lawnmower in these parts. As a matter of fact, I have one.
Do you have a Husqvarna?
I do, and they can service it and they can store it for you through the winter. Because if you're like me, you don't have a lot of storage area for stuff like this, you give them a call, they can store it for you through the winter, and they can give you all the details if you call them at 734-7767. They're also at 252 Washington Street here in Twin, where General Building Supply used to be.
There you
They
go.
also carry Echo. It has the best warranty in the industry, 5-year residential, 2-year commercial. And all their outdoor power equipment, they've been carrying that. Echo's been in the business for 40 years, so they know what it's about. Give them a call or stop by and see the folks at Clearwater Power Equipment, 252 Washington Street, and you can tell them that Kelly and Jill sent you. 7360300 is the number to call. Top Story, you are on the air. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for holding, too, by the way.
Oh, no problem. Hey, I think the writers of the Posse Comitatus intent was to keep the military out of our private lives and put a check and balance on martial law. And I agree that what's in our computers, the data in our computers is private business, and it needs to stay private. I don't want an illegal search and seizure on my computer. If you want to get information off of my computer for my home or business, it should require a warrant. But at the same time, the laws need to be updated because there are illegal activities taking place on computers.
Right.
And I think one of the places where the court may have missed with this dirtbag is that he had the information for sale on the internet, so it was no longer private.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point, actually.
So if it wasn't private, then
in other words, if he'd have just
if you find that information, you can turn him over to the authorities.
If he'd have just had it on his computer for his own private enjoyment, then it would have been one thing. But since he was selling it, that puts another dimension on it. Is that what you're saying then?
Distributing, does that mean he was selling or just passing it to his friends?
It doesn't matter if he's distributing it for free or sell. It's public. As soon as he made it public, he gave up his private rights.
Yeah.
And that's where the court messed up. This dirtbag needs to stay in jail.
I know.
And it really is a hard area because even if it's private, it's involving innocent children, and that's
I know.
sick.
Or maybe at the very least, they should have notified the local law enforcement and said, "Hey, keep an eye on this guy."
Well,
yeah,
maybe
exactly.
you can get him for
but
something.
I
or
think
get a warrant, and
he should not be free.
Yeah.
He was distributing information that should not be distributed,
right.
And he should not be free.
Yeah, he's not a poster child, is he?
No.
No, and especially
Thanks
he was.
for the call.
Yeah, thank you. Especially, and he was convicted of 18 years,
Yeah. So
which is now overturned, done. He's probably going to be let out.
I know. I agree with the caller. I think they're going to have to, and apparently we're just going to have to update them as we come to them. But we're going to have to update a lot of the laws on the books because
They didn't
the
even
internet,
think about this stuff.
computers and the internet have brought on a whole new dimension.
I mean, just
to
even in the last
privacy and
10
many other
years,
issues.
how much it's changed.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we've only seen the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
We're going to be, we carry this stuff around with us with our smartphones now.
Mm-hmm.
And now we got the Google Glass coming in, and we got, as far as technology.
That is one I will never use. I'm sorry.
The Google Glass?
Oh, you've got to be out of your mind.
Well, what's the difference between that and a dash cam?
But then also talking about Google Glass, the privacy issues that's going to be, you could be recording someone without even telling them. anytime at all. I'm sorry, but in some states you have to get permission and consent. I mean, I think that's going to lead to all sorts of privacy issues.
What they're going to have to do is, if you're wearing Google glasses, you're going to have tattooed into your forehead, you are now being recorded.
I mean, it's just ridiculous. You couldn't pay me to buy those, no. No.
Well, I'm just trying to make the point that
I know it, but we're getting
haven't
beyond.
even scratched the surface of our technology.
So what do you think? Should we update some of our laws to reflect some of this technology or not?
We're probably going to have to. 736-0300 is the number to call here this morning on Top Story. I don't know. When it comes to technology, I used to kind of have the idea that, well, we'll never get to that point because technology is just not able to do that. But you just can't do that anymore. We are truly living in an age where literally anything is possible.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. 736-0300, the number to call here this morning on Top Story. Welcome back. We're going to discuss the happiest place in the world to live. But first, I've got to tell you about the Low and Honey Loader. And if you have, say, a feedlot or a dairy or a confined animal feeding operation or something like that, where manure becomes an issue at times, you may want to consider a Low and Honey Loader, which can load all types of manure. It doesn't care. It's not discriminating, or not discriminatory, I should say. And you can load it up to 7 miles an hour. This is a good machine. There are a lot of them out there that have been sold by Stanley and Company. And if you are interested in one, Pat Hartzell, who works for Stanley and Company, can arrange it so you can see one of these already in operation. Then you can decide if you think that's something that you want to consider for your feeding operation. You can call him on his personal cell phone at 280-1167. That's 280-1167. And tell him that Kelly and Jill sent you. Pat Hartzell with Stanley and Company. Okay, we got a caller. Top Story, you're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, the thing that on your last subject there that scares me, if the government has a program that can take things, download things from your computer from 1,000 miles away, I'm sure they have a program that could upload things to your computer from 1,000 miles away, which that scares the hell out of me.
You know what? I have no doubt that they can do just about anything they want.
You mean like they would frame you or something?
It's possible.
No, I wouldn't call it a prank.
But wouldn't you be able to track it? You know how you have computer experts and say this was loaded from this, you know.
I don't know.
Well, you can seem to track a lot of things.
But just kind of take that one step farther. We have no idea what is out there. I have heard that our military, anything we see today, our military is 10 years ahead. And I have heard that it even goes farther than that.
Well, and maybe you need to be with what's happening in the world. You know, you can't just sit there and go, oh, you know, let's not look into stuff. But you know what? We have our local law enforcement. We have, it used to be, and I can't think of his name now. But anyway, Todd. Remember, he used to be the sexual whatever. But they would
sexual
go online.
Predator investigator.
Yeah. I mean, the stuff he would find and then that would lead to arrest. So, I think it's probably the military trying to see what's happening on computers that are probably owned by taxpayers.
Well,
when you think about it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So
do you really want they say that's a big issue.
But the point I think the caller was trying to make there is that if they can see what's on our computer, they can probably upload stuff. And I know they can because hackers can do that. Hackers are uploading stuff to our computers all the time, and we have ask Home Depot about that. Ask Target about that.
Well, they hacked into them, so I don't know. I think that seems a little different.
They uploaded a malware program to Home Depot, and that's how they got like 54 million credit card pieces of information and debit card.
Yeah.
So, and if we think we have privacy nowadays, folks, we are kidding ourselves.
No, we don't.
We
don't have privacy, but
every store you go into, probably. Everywhere you go, there's something taking a picture of you. Look at that, the bandit that they just took a picture of there at Walgreens that they just published. And he probably had an idea he was going to get his picture taken when he walked in the store. But I mean, they have, and people just walking around with smartphones, taking videos.
Yeah.
I would guess to say every time you walk outside your door, wherever you live, there's something going to take a picture of you that day somewhere.
Probably
or a video,
somewhere.
Or a video.
I mean, yeah, video.
So anyway,
But then it goes to the question, like, if there is a crime, if you see crimes happen, I mean, do you then go, well, geez, I was the wrong person to find this?
Well, and if a military person witnesses a crime, technically
They're not a
speaking,
witness?
I know that this is far-fetched here, but if a military person witnesses a crime and turns it in and provides maybe some evidence for that crime, for a crime committed by a civilian, it's almost the same thing here. I know we're splitting hairs, but these attorneys, they can get a hold of stuff like this, and they can put a shadow of a doubt in a lot of jurors on this kind of stuff. So are you still happy to live in America? A new international survey, the Gallup Healthways Global Wellbeing Index, reveals how 135 countries rank when it comes to the well-being of their residents. The results are based on how people fare on 5 factors that contribute to well-being. These factors include having purpose, being physically healthy, being financially secure, having supportive social relationships, and being satisfied with the community. The Gallup researchers looked at each country and the percentage of people who were thriving in 3 or more of these factors. The number one country, what you might say the happiest country in the world, ladies and gentlemen, drum roll please, is not the United States. It is Panama. Panama is the happiest country in the world. Number 2 is Costa Rica. Number 3 is Denmark. Number 4 is Austria. And number 5, ladies and gentlemen, is still not the United States. It is Brazil.
Well,
El Salvador is number 6.
We always think, of course, we would be the happiest, but you look, a lot of people don't seem pretty happy around here.
A lot of people are stressed. Anyway, I think the United States is down here at number 11, I believe it is.
Wow.
And the problem of it is we ran out of time. We do have the Huckabee Report, brought to you by Waddell & Reed. You can hear the Huckabee Report each weekday at this time, brought to you exclusively by Waddell & Reed. Laura Nelson, Josh Funk, and Steve Stanger are the financial advisors, and the number is 736-6563. We just want to reiterate the closure at Orchard and South Washington Street. There's a break in the water line. Please, those on the south end of town, you may notice a decrease in water pressure. If you would refrain, I guess is the better word, refrain from using unnecessary water, like turn off your sprinkler system. You might want to delay taking a bath or a shower for a few hours. Don't wash your car, things like that, until they get this fixed. So,
well, it's still raining, so hopefully people won't need their sprinklers or wash their car.
Well, that's the best time to wash your car. You're getting free water. What are you talking about? I'm just saying. So at any rate, and avoid that area at Washington and Orchard because of that water line break. It's a big one, too. It was a 24-inch line. They did catch it early, but they want you to kind of stay away from that area if possible because they have workers there. And the more they have to deal with traffic, probably the longer it's going to take to fix it. So,
right. So just be careful. And tomorrow is our lunch.
Yes, with Frank Pepper.
Yes.
That's
so if
a
you
cool
haven't signed
name.
up for your lunch.
Frank
Is it
Pepper.
related to Doctor?
Oh, we'll have to ask him.
Anyway, and we also have to talk about Bras Across the Canyon.
Yes, I know. Bras Across the Canyon is coming up on October 4th from noon until 3, sponsored by Arlo G. Lott Trucking Company and also the South Central Public Health District, Glanbia, and we'll get some free food from Chick-fil-A. So bring a donation and a bra to the bridge. And then we're going to span the bridge with bras and raise awareness for breast cancer. This, I believe, is the 3rd annual, if I'm not mistaken. And a lot of people show up. There's parking available there. It'll be at the Prime Bridge, so you can park there at the Visitor Center, and also overflow parking will be available at Johnny Carino's. And 100% of the donations will benefit the Wellness Tree Community Clinic, which is a local charity. And from noon until 1:30, there will be free food with Chick-fil-A. You can decorate your bra 1:30 till 2. They'll award the best decorated bra winners. And then at 2 o'clock, they'll walk across the canyon showing the bras and showing the signs. And it's a fun event. So be there if you can, because it's a very worthwhile cause, with October being Breast Cancer Awareness Month and all. It's a serious issue, and it's just a good way to get money for research and help in this line. Tomorrow we have Steve Millington with the Twin Falls Republicans. And who else do we have?
We also
tomorrow?
have Marge Schmidt from the Idaho Department of Labor. Jordan Neerdales has left us and gone to Boise.
That's right.
So we're going to have Marge on, and that's about it.
So if you're looking for a job, tomorrow might be a good day to tune in.
Wake up. She'll be on at 9 o'clock.
Wake up the kids in the basement, parents, and have them listen tomorrow.
That's right.
We'll see you then. Have a great day. Goodbye, Jill.
Bye, Cal.